YouTube.
Preparing to live stream, setting up your video meeting for video. Gosh.
Yeah. Ugh.
Oh, it says we're live on YouTube on my
Preparing to
screen.
live stream,
we're
setting
going.
up your video meeting for
Yeah, we are.
Gosh.
So
Yeah.
Oh, it says we're live on YouTube on my screen.
Live stream, setting.
Hi, welcome to Collab Houston. We're a group of youth pastors located in the Houston area, and we're getting together to talk about our years of experience in youth ministry, life, and how to further God's kingdom. Our purpose is to have a dialogue about how to do ministry well in the Asian American, specifically the Chinese community. We also want to have an active dialogue from our community during our sessions, so please feel free to comment during our live stream, and we'll do our best to answer the questions as they come along. Thanks again for joining us. And now, here's Kai, Stanley, Jeremy, and Justin.
Oh, what's going on, everybody? We have a special guest
We're
with
losing
us.
it. We're losing her. We're losing her. She's crying.
It was good while it lasted, guys.
Yeah, it took us too long for that
Billy.
intro.
Oh,
We
She
she
wasn't
wasn't crying
See you later,
earlier.
little baby.
We're
Bye,
losing her.
Billy.
little baby. All right. So it's been like 3 weeks since our last episode. I think the last one was camp featuring Mr. Josh Griffin. And it was great having him on talking about DYM and other aspects of youth ministry that we're not used to. And so, but today we're jumping in. It's August 13th, 2020. We did not expect to be where we're at, huh, guys? No one would have guessed this stuff.
No.
And so tonight, what we're talking about is, man, how do we prep for the new year, new school year? Usually August is kind of our prep and plan time. So, man, we'll throw it out to everybody. What do you guys think through like during this time? What's going on in your mind during like post camp and jumping into August? I'll throw it to
Yeah,
Stan.
I'll-
Stan. Oh,
go
Jeremy.
ahead.
Yeah.
I'll start. Yeah. So usually after camp, it is, well, we have our camp a little bit later than you guys. So by the time we finish camp, we have maybe a week or a week and a half, because FBISD also starts school very early. They were supposed to start mid-August, but are about to start next Monday. And so not only do we need to figure out how to do something like post camp, but we're also just getting ready to start school. And so there's like no time to rest. Usually we have like an extra day off the week after camp, but with some kind of post camp rally, getting ready for the school year, getting ready for new servant team leaders, like student leaders, new small group leaders, new parent orientation stuff. It's just like a mad rush for us at FBCC.
Yeah. What about the rest of you guys? Because I know the three of us, we run camp together, and so we're not as late as FBCC, but I mean we're still pushing at the end of July. And so actually, here's the thing: when do you guys launch the new school year?
Probably around Labor Day, I think.
Okay. Kyle,
Yeah,
what
we
about you?
start probably the first Sunday of September.
Okay.
I mean, even though our camp ends a little bit earlier than FPCC, I know for myself personally, like every August is still also, it feels like a mad rush to get things ready. And I think like this year, I'm sure we're all feeling it, but this year in particular, with us being in quarantine and still remaining online for this upcoming fall semester, like I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I know for whatever reason, like I have lost a lot of my leaders from last year. And so it's forced me to have to do way more recruiting than I've ever done. So that has kept me really busy this August for sure.
When do y'all actually start recruiting for leaders? I mean, do y'all have like contracts, like year-long contracts, or how do y'all go about leaders for the new year?
Actually, I think last year I learned from Kai that he was like, yeah, I have my current teachers confirmed back in May, right? And then that'll give me like the whole summer to look. And then of course I try to do the confirming thing, confirm in May, and then that gets pushed back because people need more time, and then I just forget, right? And then I probably didn't even start recruiting till like late
Okay.
July, and I just forgot. But that was a good thing. That was a good thing that Kai brought up, was like, yeah, have teachers confirm, because I think last year I had teachers confirm in like July, and that was kind of like, and then there were some that were like, oh no, we can't make it, or they were going to move away or something like that, and I was just like, all right, and I'm left with like a month of scrambling, and I was still probably scrambling a little bit, but at least there was some where people did tell me like at the end of beginning of June, like, hey, our plans aren't working out, or they're we had college kids that are graduating, we had people moving because of the pandemic, right? Like, because they got a new job, right? And they got to move away, and so it was just a lot of that where I lost a lot of people too, but at least that gave me some heads up of, all right, we got to look for more people. And I don't think I started recruiting till like 2-3 weeks ago. Well, probably like 3 weeks ago. So
Jimmy, are you the same way, like with leaders? I mean, did you see a increase, decrease?
I think I lost like 7 out of 20 leaders this at the end of this year.
Wow.
And some of it was due to, again, like people are moving, or like I had some leaders that they need a break, right? They've been doing this forever, and so it's not like, it's just all sorts of reasons. And I actually don't think a lot of them were like, I'm done with youth ministry. I think most of them had like legitimate excuses where they just couldn't do it, even, but I think if they could, they would.
Yeah, I think for me, we didn't lose too many leaders. I think that what was really hard was we have a lot of like older adults who are serving in the youth ministry, but like when it came to online, they found it extremely difficult. We all know how our guys are, oh, my camera happens to not work today, or I have one of my incoming sixth grader. He's just like, oh, no, I'm not paying attention. I'm watching something on YouTube right now. And like, he'll like straight out just tell me, and that's, I mean, at least he's honest, right? But we found like how difficult it is to do small group leading or teaching online has really been really frustrating. And even when we come in and try to give them tips or helpful, like icebreaker, like we have like, remember at the beginning of this whole thing, the 4 of us got together and we're like, hey, let's put together a list, aka copy W's list, of all of their games, and then just be like, try to figure out how to do this thing, and even then it's still been really hard to find leaders. And
I mean, I think it's a hard sell originally, right? Just to get leaders on board a lot of times, just because I mean, like the way I pitch it, I'm like, hey, youth ministry is almost near impossible, right? And at the root of it, it's really, really hard. And it's not just entertaining, but you're talking about handling 7 years of transition, of changes, the biggest life stages ever in this time. And we're asking, leaders and adults, and hopefully parents and maybe grandparents, to be like, hey, we want you to love and disciple, but we also want you to be a theologian and a counselor and all these other things. And and then you add on the whole, hey, now I want you to do it virtually. It's a tough sell. And so, and I wonder how many youth groups out there, maybe you guys can comment to tell us like, hey, how are you guys doing on the leader front? I mean, maybe you guys are doing better because you're just like, hey, I don't have to go to church, or I don't have to actually show up physically and clean up and all this stuff. And I just have to, entertain online. We just want to know, because it seems like the four of us are going, hey, this is a tough season for us, especially youth groups that have a little bit older leaders, right? I think that's a huge one. But
Yeah.
hey, let me ask you, as we're still staying on this recruiting leaders for the new year, do you guys have any type of like application or forms they got to fill out, legal training, all that type of stuff? What do y'all typically do for this time of year before school starts? I'll throw it to Kai first.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really an application in the sense of like, oh, let me, review your answers. But, if there's someone new, then I take the time to kind of just do a conversation with an interview, and ask them, about their experience. And even if they have no experience, it's okay. Just even listening to their interests and their heart motivation for wanting to help, or their interest in wanting to help. But we do give them the application just to fill out, basic information. We ask for social security for background check. All of our leaders every single year, new or old leaders, we do background checks every year, usually around this time. Yeah, that's our format.
Okay. I mean, that's a good point. I need to kind of remind myself to do the background checks. I think we tend to forget that, especially now virtually, because we're not in the office a lot of times, or we're not looking at our admins, just to make sure that we get that going. That's a good thing. Do y'all do evals for your leaders for the last year? Y'all
sent out like a Google or something like a Google form, asking them to let us know like what went well, just what was hard, how can I help them. I think some of the basic stuff on there, like how can we do better, what were some things that you saw. So these are questions. What are some things that you saw that was good? Like what fruits did you see, any praises, things like that. And usually I try to ask, and I ask my youth leaders this every month, is like, do you guys have any students that we should be aware of, like anything we could pray for, anything I need to like reach out, anyone I need to reach out to, and stuff like that. And so kind of a very similar, asking those questions throughout the year. And I think I probably took, I asked David Carter, I was like, hey, what do you do for an eval for the year? What questions you got? And then he sent me what he had, and kind of just put some questions of my own. But yeah, that's kind of what we do at the end of the year. Sometimes it's hard to get them to fill it out though. I don't know if it's like way too long or stuff like that, but I think this year, since we were online, I was like, hey, and so we did like a care package this year. And so a part of that was like, hey, I need you to fill this out so you can put your address on here. And then
care package. That's smart.
I can bring you your care package. And
that's good.
So fill it out. And then, but that's just something that we do, or we did this year.
Hey, and let me ask this one question before we move on from the topic of leader, especially for the some of the younger youth pastors out there. What are the things you're looking out for when it comes to leader application that may either throw warning signs, or you would go, I probably need to reject this leader for this year? What goes through your mind? Because I have a couple of things that I always try to think through before that. But what is it for you guys?
I actually never, I don't know. I feel like there's very like, okay, if you're willing to even approach me about the idea of like, hey, I want to serve in the youth ministry, I tend to lean on the side of like, hey, okay, let's try it out. The warning signs that I would give is obviously if there are any kind of like legal issues, like aside from those kinds of like actual like red warning signs, like I would say like someone who is maybe not willing to, like someone who comes in with an agenda. If someone comes in like, hey, I'm here to teach the young people how to, and then fill the blank. But if they're here to learn, one of the biggest things that when I train my small group leaders is to talk about, I'm always talking about like how do we listen better? How do we spend time listening? Because when you listen to understand, you not listen to debate or listen to, refute. but listen to understand. Then you can really develop that relationship and that connection with a young person, because then you're really trying to understand where they're coming from. If I get the feeling that they're coming in with an agenda and not having that kind of perspective of I'm here to learn from young people, that is going to be usually one of the signs that I will say, like, maybe this is not great for you. And then I don't know. And then I think that the other part is like, if like the other thing that I've thought of is like, there's maybe someone who like just, you kind of know that they aren't going to work well with youth. And I don't
You mean
want
like their personality or the way they think, or?
So like there's, well, I don't know. I don't know how much I should say here, because like it would just be like this person, well, has like some special needs. Like it would fall in the category of special needs, but really wants to serve in the youth, but really want to serve like a small group. And for me, it's like I don't want to say no, but I want to find out like different avenues. So I wouldn't call that a red flag, but I really, and I've had a really hard time trying to figure out how to help this person serve in the youth ministry as well. But this person really wanted to serve as a small group leader, and when like a lot of special needs have like a lot of communication difficulties, and so that's something separate. So
I mean, I think for me, especially like the last 4 or 5 years now, when it comes to like leaders, and I think this typically applies to a lot of the younger ones, right? A lot of college and, just coming out of college. I'm always trying to ask the question, or I'm always trying to figure out, hey, how are they doing personally in their spiritual walk, right? Because I'm like, man, like, hey, you're a great leader. You love the kids. You're a great communicator. But man, now that I know kind of your tendencies and even your lack of engagements, that speaks more than a lot of the things that you can do. You know what I mean? When they refuse to kind of attend, when they refuse to kind of listen and all these type of things, I'm just like, man, this is a hard one, because like the youth love them or whatever. But I'm going, for your sake, I'm just like, hey, you need to be really, really connected to the Lord, or else you're going to be really doing youth ministry out of your own strength. And that's going to, or you're going to start teaching based off of something you've learned or not learning currently. And you're teaching something that you've learned maybe 5-10 years ago, but it's not fresh. There's no conviction of it. And I'm like, hey, those are hard conversations that I'm starting to have more and more now that we're in this stage of youth ministry. So, all right. Any other final thoughts on leaders and stuff like that before we start to think through other topics of planning? How do you guys plan? I mean, when you're looking at the year, right? You're like September to May, or no, sorry, September to May, September to next August. What goes on in y'all's mind? How do y'all, what y'all do?
Well, one thing we do here, part of our ministry motto or mission statement is that we're ministry by youth, and trying to give youth ownership, right, and let them speak. And so one thing I've been doing is letting them kind of choose kind of the direction. I definitely frame it, or give them some options, or but so I think it was like right after our camp week, and then it was, soon after we had our student leader retreat and stuff like that. Well, retreat, right? We had like 3 days of online stuff, and like for a few hours a day, so it wasn't like every day all day. That would have been horrendous, but yeah, but I just bring it to them, like, all right, what do you guys see? What do you guys want? And even just like looking at their like applications, right? Looking at their applications, like, what do you want to see in the youth group? And then like kind of pulling that together, and kind of developing a kind of a direction, kind of, all right, if you guys want this, take it and run with it. And, or else it's just like, hey, do what I do what I want you to do, and be tired of ministry, or like be tired of serving, and and really not having motivation. And so that's one thing we definitely emphasize and try to, put it in the hands of the youth, or at least our student leaders, and go, hey, like, this is your ministry. This is, feel the responsibility, feel the weight of like how well our youth does. It's on our shoulders, together. And so that's one thing we do, and how we plan the direction for this year. And I think even just 2 years ago, and I was talking with Daniel Zhang, and he was like, hey, like, our youth has like 7 core values. And so what they started to do a few years ago was like, like try to go through each one of them each year. I think, Justin, you do that too, maybe.
I started that back when I started. I mean, we came up with the core values, and then we try to go year by year.
Maybe we'll talk about how that works out. So, but that's one thing we did this year. That's why I was like, oh, I didn't know we were doing that. And so, because last year I just kind of took their conversations and ran with it, took their thoughts. But this year I was like, well, we have this list, and then, so which one do you want to do? Which one would you want to go after? Which one do you think is fitting for our youth group this year? And so that's kind of what
would y'all choose? What y'all land on?
I think most of them wanted to do community. And we thought that would, then in my mind, I thought that would be good because we're so separated right now, because we're so like, we're online, and I think that would be a good focus of like,
hey, I have a good theme for y'all this year. I think it's you should do something like reconnect or something like that. I think I might have a logo for you too. It's
we have a logo. We might even have some shirts.
If you pay me enough, I might be able to send you the logo and the design and stuff.
Reconnect, so. Yes.
Reconnect's a really good theme for y'all.
So I think we might run with that. I haven't made a decision on that, but I think we might do that. And and so like trying to pick our Friday night stuff. Jeremy, I talked to you earlier this week. I was like, hey, how do you choose a curriculum and stuff like that? And so we might do a little bit, trying to focus on the church, trying to focus on, what does community look like? And I think we might get to this later, like just kind of curriculum itself. And so I'll talk about that later on, but that's, yeah. So letting the youth, taking it and run with it. That's kind of what we wanted to do in our hope when we plan.
Kai, what's your strategy there? Are you the same, or are you the complete opposite? And you're just like, no, this is what we do.
I mean, I think first of all, there's definitely not like one single right way of going about it. But I will say, I think, for my, at our church with our youth group, we probably do it the complete opposite. Not that we don't listen to what the youth want. I do have a core team of student leaders, and I work very closely with them, and I am always listening to their feedback. But I know for myself, like this past year, maybe the past 2 years, I have, like, on Sunday mornings, I haven't had a role where I am teaching like every Sunday. I might be teaching or preaching here and there, but it's not every Sunday. And so I have a lot of time where I'm just visiting classes, or I'm just kind of observing. And so, I think for me, throughout the entire school year, I'm just kind of like constantly observing and trying to listen to conversations and listen to the heartbeat and the rhythms of our youth ministry, and to consider, to always be evaluating in my own mind, like, how are we doing? What are we struggling in? And I'm probably a little bit more pessimistic than I am optimistic. And so I tend to
no one would have ever thought that, guy.
I think I tend to, like, I'll just kind of overanalyze and be more critical. And so I think for me, like, it's, when I first started at W, you ask any of my kids who were there from the beginning, they'll all tell you that their first impression of me was like, this random guy that just came in and is like changing everything. Because I think for me, it's just like, in my mind, I want things to be purposeful. And it's like, if I don't understand how this fulfills the purpose, then why are we doing this? We're going to scratch this. And so I've had to learn to be a little bit gentler over the years. But for me, I work with a core team of leaders, specifically like my deacon, myself, my deacon, and maybe a couple of other leaders who I really value their experience. And I basically, I might give some proposition, I might give some feedback about things that I feel like I don't really feel like is working. And if I had the bandwidth, then I will give a proposal of some tweaks that I would like to see, or maybe some major structural changes to the way we're doing our programming. And so really all that brainstorming is on the higher up level of leaders, myself, my deacon, and a few other adults. We don't really have any youth who are involved in that. I think I'm grateful for our youth, because I think my youth trust our leadership enough that, like whatever they say, like we're gonna trust that, it's good for us, and that, God will use it to grow our ministry and to challenge us. And so I'm thankful for the humility of our kids. I'm thankful for their learners' posture. But yeah, I think, as far as like core values that you guys are talking about, like I don't really have like a set of core values. We have like a vision statement, but we don't really have like core values. And so, you guys talking about that is definitely something I think intriguing for me to think more about. But for us, it's more of just leadership planning and then implementing.
Okay, cool. Jeremy, you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. So for us, we're kind of a mix between Kai and Stan. So, but ours comes from like the direction of the senior pastor. So the senior, like I was talking with you guys earlier about how our senior pastor is setting the direction and vision. This week we've been doing our staff retreat, and he's talking about the next 3 years of like what is the direction, what is the vision, and then he's really kind of doubling down on us focusing on discipleship, like one-on-one discipleship, and how do we disciple people in our church, people in our congregation, and then trying to help us think through what is the next 3 years going to look like for FBCC. And so what we do is on the staff level, Carolyn and I will take the overall direction of what our senior pastor is giving us, and then we will kind of implement these kind of the way the programs that we have will fit into that vision. So like the overall program, overall direction, and then our student leaders are going to be mainly in charge of the fellowship times, which is going to be Friday nights or Saturday nights, middle school and high school respectively. And then we work very closely with our student leaders to give them that kind of freedom to plan out, to be able to talk about whatever, like the things that they want to learn about during the fellowship times, as far as like even the direction topics, like I was teaching on eschatology earlier this year. That's something that, I mean, I don't know if they got anything from it, but those are the things that they choose. So on that level, they are the ones that are having the freedom to kind of dictate and navigate which direction that they want to go, because that kind of pulse, they understand what their friends and what they are interested in. And so we allow the student leaders a lot of freedom to dictate and go in sort of that kind of direction as far as topics that they want to talk about. Now, what we do is we take that value, that vision that our senior pastor has given us, and then we pass it down through our leadership. So we talk about discipleship all the time with our leaders, talking about, hey, who are you discipling? Who are you mentoring? And then we ourselves meet up with our student leaders, trying to go if they are not already being discipled, then we as the staff will take them on, and then we'll start to disciple and mentor them. And so we're kind of a blend, I would say, of top-down leadership, also allowing students to have that freedom.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah. I mean, our context is a little bit different. I mean, I want to be able to go, hey, this is where we're at. I think it's tough right now in the life of CBC, to where it's the top vision is kind of fuzzy, right? So it's been a while where the youth ministry has to run on its silo. And I've told you guys, like my thing, the way I think through youth ministry now versus year one has drastically changed. And so what I try to do is I always think, okay, what's our immediate context? Because I'm going, every year is different, right? Because all the youth are different. Even the youth that were here last year, they're completely different this year. And then so the dynamics change per year, plus culture, plus pandemic. There's immediate needs that need to be addressed. And then I always have this kind of golden unicorn idea in my mind that I'm like, okay, if I were here for the next 10 more years, what are we driving our youth group towards? Because it's either like, I feel like there's two big philosophies. Either, hey, we're just gonna do every year is kind of standalone. We're going to do the best we can, or all the years kind of lead up to something else. And while I'm trying to take advantage of using this year to meet its needs, I'm trying to move us into kind of a, the ultimate plan in my mind. Right. And that's a massive thing where I want to go towards. So that's how I kind of plan it. And man, what I realize is, so the core value thing, Kai, that you asked, we started with 7 core values, and I think we made it through like 6, which is pretty impressive. And then all of a sudden, the entire youth group completely shifted because of maturity, because of just a lot of different things. And so we had to restart at certain points. And then we actually had somewhere in the middle, had to restructure. We realized, hey, this year we're getting rid of Sunday school. And we're moving that to Fridays, and we're moving Fridays to Sundays, and we're getting rid of Wednesday nights or some other type of things. And so there's years where we just had to go, okay, who are the youth now that's coming into this particular year, and how do we meet those needs at that time? So it's a lot of diagnostic stuff that we had to do at the front end. So, but Stan, you mentioned something about teaching. How do you guys come up with curriculum, and what are you guys even doing this year? Like, have y'all thought through it?
Yeah.
Just pull a book off the shelf and you're just
pretty much. We've been going right now Media Strong a lot. We've been doing a lot of that.
Because of the quarantine or because of like beforehand?
We actually did. We were doing Right Now Media even beforehand. So like in the spring, we were going through Crazy Love, and that was on Right Now Media. And I think in the fall, we kind of switched back and forth. And my thinking was that we would go back and forth. Like we would do like in-person teaching, like one series, and then and maybe in the fall we would do that. Just kind of, okay, we preach through a book of the Bible, and then in the spring we'll do some videos, and then, spring's a little bit longer, so we do video and some in-person teaching and stuff like that.
Do you pick the curriculum, or
so I would pick it? Yeah.
Okay.
I would pick.
So do you guys, the three of y'all, do y'all vet every curriculum like before it's implemented, or how's that work for you guys?
I mean, definitely at least, if it was a video, I wouldn't like watch everyone, but I would go through at least, some of the videos, and then look through like the study guide, and if it's definitely, choosing someone that I know. So, like this summer, we went through Psalm 23 on Right Now Media,
Chandler?
right? And that was by Chandler. Like, yeah. I'm not going to vet that, right? I'm not going to vet Chandler, right? And so, so it depends with that.
Okay. What about the rest of you guys? What do y'all choose? And then how do you go about choosing it? And then what's the vetting process on even curriculum and stuff?
I think, yeah. So I almost feel like we're giving some of these like curriculum makers like some
Free
airtime,
promo?
Yeah, but I know, for our youth ministry, the last year and a half, 2 years or so, we've been teaching more so topical. And so I have been the one to decide on a certain topic, and we might instead go through like a book, and we kind of just make our own curriculum in some ways, make our own lessons. But this year, I really I was hoping to go back into the Word of God, like the actual scripture itself, and just go straight to there as in a Bible study. And my good friend Kevin Yee would appreciate me mentioning this, but Kevin from Rooted Ministries, they wrote up they created this whole new, like, I don't know what you call it, but a curriculum database called Rooted Reservoir, and so Rooted Reservoir, and
$10 to your pocket.
Yeah, and I've been, I took a glance at one of the sample ones, and I really liked it. They basically just take some of the books in the Bible, and they break it down by each chapter or each section, and then they have really good, thorough discussion questions that are just really deep and I think theological and gospel centered. That's the big
Yeah.
thing. They always are constantly repeating the gospel front and middle and the very end. And so I mean I was, and I think the way I chose that was because I like what I saw from the preview. I know Kevin personally, and I respect him a lot as a brother, but also as a man of God. And so, you know, I think that gave this curriculum a lot of credentials for me to say, okay, yeah, like I trust this. I'm not gonna go and vet through every single lesson because there's like I don't know 50 or 60 of them. But yeah, I think definitely word of mouth I would say is helps a lot. So you know, like whatever you guys say, I'm gonna write it down, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna consider that in our future years of ministries. We might doing something that you guys do. So
Yeah.
we're gonna be going through Root of Reservoir, and we're gonna be studying through a lot of Old Testament and maybe a little bit of New Testament, but mostly staying in the OT.
That's good. I didn't know about Rooted Reservoir, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna go look at that.
You guys are all
too.
looking at it. I can see you guys looking at your other
Yeah,
screens, man.
it's cheap, man. It's not as expensive.
Hey
Take
Kevin,
a
give me
look.
some commission over here.
Yeah, we have dude, Kai, you're on this page. I can
Yeah,
see
yeah,
you.
yeah.
That's
Does the
that's
hat, does
why
the
you
hat.
wanted some
Yeah.
kind of, oh man, that's
Oh, I see, Kai. You
Yeah,
just
I'm on there. I noticed.
okay. Yeah, go to pick your plan. You'll see Kai on the right side of the banner. For us, so our middle schoolers, we tend to use more like a paid curriculum, which is we had a couple of years we went to the Gospel Project because our children's ministry is using Gospel Project, and we felt that it was really
did that
like, we
work?
really
Did that work for your middle schoolers?
no, it did not. It really
It was
flopped.
really thick, wasn't it? Like really heavy. Like it was a lot of reading.
So yes, that's kind of where the problem is. So I'll describe a little bit of what happened. Actually, the complaint that we got from our middle school leaders was that um, there wasn't enough material for the Gospel Project in comparison to student life, like the student life Bible study. So for years,
Really?
especially when I first started, we used student life, and then they yeah, so the reason why we switched is because one, the children's ministry was using the Gospel Project, and I wanted to give our parents and families a very easy in
Yeah.
as far as like, what are you learning on Sundays? I just wanted to give them a win of like, hey, your kid in the children's ministry is learning this, your kid in middle school ministry is learning this. This is something that you can talk about as a family at the dinner table on Sundays. And our leaders, what I found out was talking through the evaluation that at the end of the year was that when you have student life, they give you kind of like activities, they give you like worksheets, they give you all of these
It's
things.
pretty
So
much
not that,
everything. Yeah.
yeah, so it's not so much that there wasn't enough content. It was just like too much of this like biblical not enough of the activities and
Yeah.
other things
It's
that
huge.
student life had. And so it just meant that you as a leader, you need to really take more time during the week to prepare. And some of our leaders didn't have that time, and some of our leaders didn't want to. And so like there's a full spectrum. So yeah, and so we went back this year. We're going back to student life ministry because our middle school leaders tend to like that a little bit more. It does that curriculum like that will allow your leaders to like if they don't want to use it, they'll prepare a lot more. They'll personalize it, make it a lot better to fit their group. But then that also allows leaders and where we're talking about where you're recruiting leaders, those leaders who really don't have time or really aren't creative or who don't want to put in that effort to teach
it's
during
an easy
smaller
starting
time.
point.
It is an easy starting point. And I think some of our leaders have gotten stuck in that kind of easy aspect of it. And so that's mainly middle school for us. And then high school, we allow them to use the student life curriculum as well, or Gospel Project when we had it. A lot of the high school leaders will take the passage because it's still, the curriculum is still going through like certain like a topic. So they'll take the passage and then they'll do like a Bible study on it. And then the other option that we give our high school leaders is if they want to do like a study through the Bible, we give them a lot of flexibility and just trying to give them that like listen to your group. what do they want to study? What do they want to talk about, kind of thing. And yeah, and if this rooted, I think let us know how it goes. Keep an ear to the ground, Kai, and let us know how it goes.
So when it comes to this, I'm assuming the three of you guys are talking about more of on a Sunday school level, or is this across the board?
I
Sunday school for me.
Okay.
I was in our small groups.
Sorry, Jeremy, go ahead. Sorry.
We do it in our small groups.
Okay.
Which is Sunday morning, but we've taken out Sunday school. We don't do Sunday school anymore.
Yeah, we have we have Sunday school. We have small groups in our Sunday school.
Okay.
It's not really like the whole like lecture format anymore. Not at all.
So what do y'all do Fridays then? Because I was referencing our Friday night stuff, so for us. But what do y'all do for Friday nights?
Okay.
Well, let me give another plug to another.
Are you
Might
on
as
this
well.
website
I mean,
too?
Dude,
you're
not doing it on purpose.
Man.
You're not doing it on purpose.
Paid here, man. What's going on? Gosh.
Is there a second reservoir or something?
This
This
He's
one's called
gonna
Waterfall.
transition to a
Okay,
Kai
this one's called
Reservoir.
Waterfall.
Rooted waterfall.
Yeah.
No, I have been. So on Friday night is our fellowship night. And first of all, some context, right? Like our fellowship nights are a lot smaller and they're a lot younger. They're mostly middle school students. We do combine middle school and high school. And like, unfortunately, we don't really draw a huge high school crowd besides from like our leaders. And so it's mostly middle school heavy. And so what we've been doing is over the last 2 years, like consistently, we've been going through this curriculum they're called Grow curriculum. And they're pretty big. They're fairly big. And I like their stuff because they have different models of different ways in which you can deliver the curriculum. Like there's like a mostly like lecture kind of way. There's like a mostly discussion small group kind of way, and then there's like a hybrid. So we use the hybrid model where we teach a little bit and we go into small group discussion, and I teach a little bit more and small group back and forth. And so I like their stuff. I think it's solid. They're very topical. It's not going through a book in the Bible. It's all topical, and it's a little bit lighter, and not in the sense of like it's fluffy and not theological. Not that, but I would say it's a little bit lighter, that it's easier to understand and a little bit more engaging to have conversations about, because it is more topical. And if our fellowship nights were more high school dominant, then I might not choose this curriculum. But because of the nature of our current fellowship attendance, we've been going with it for 2 years, and I've enjoyed it for the most part. Yeah.
You get the box? With all
No,
the cards?
I don't know. I've seen pictures. I don't know what that thing is. I just
do you not get like? Do you do the whole planning out all the cards?
No,
and then,
no. I only get a curriculum. That's it.
That's interesting. I thought it was all packaged.
Version. There's like the cheaper version.
Oh, okay. You got
Save money.
Now that you give them a plug, you should probably get the premium.
Yeah. No, they should give me the premium.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, like the whole idea of community like being important was kind of I saw their curriculums, and they're like, I think the first part of their part 1 of this year was kind of on community, because of the whole idea of we want to try to reconnect and everything, which gave me some ideas of like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and needing to do that. So yeah, so Grow curriculum. Yeah, okay, yeah, it makes sense. But I'm sorry, Dustin, you were gonna say?
No. So I mean, I'm gonna challenge you guys to think a little bit differently too. So I mean, this is something we've changed maybe about 3-4 years ago. Because I mean, like I said, we ran through the core values, and when we were planning for the year, it was kind of like all year long. You know what I mean? Like the whole year was completely, this is one curriculum, one type of thing. And so we were wondering like, okay, is that, how does that work? And so I think recently what we've done is we try to change it up by bite-sized semesters. So what we typically do is August is typically our reboot. And so it's typically for training and for kind of, we're giving the leaders the whole month off. We don't launch till September like you guys, but then in the fall, so September to December, what we focus on is community and truth. So it's a lot of theological building and a lot of kind of just learning about each other and what community looks like. And then what we do is we try to shift toward the spring to where it's heavy focus on discipleship and then service or missions. And so hopefully like we've tried to take all of the fall to kind of build up so that we can kind of do stuff in the spring. And then we use the summers for very like life skill type stuff, because it's leader light sometimes, but it looks different. So I've been trying to figure out, okay, within the year, are there certain seasons in which we change up the curriculum and stuff? So fall is typically really theologically heavy. It's a lot of Bible studies. It's a lot of systematics. And then when it gets to the spring, it's more kind of like, the counseling aspects and the discipleship kind of curriculums and stuff. So I don't know. It's been okay. I don't know if we have to go back to the other one, but we did shift somewhere in the middle, and I don't know. That's just how we think through the rhythms of the year. And we kind of stole Breakaway's idea of Shalom. Like they take the month of March for Shalom, and what they do is they take March to kind of focus in on kind of either local, national, or global needs. And so it was like, hey, what are some of the big needs and big darknesses around either the cities and stuff? And so we've worked with like sex trafficking and, a lot of these like homelessness and everything like that in the month of March, just to kind of filter that into the semester. So it's kind of what we've been trying to think through. So the curriculum matches that stuff. Hey, we got like, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask if y'all are doing anything different, and because you're still, I'm guessing y'all are still online till at least the rest of this.
Yeah, man.
So y'all do anything different? Like, because I think for us, my teachers were like, hey, like, because we use Gospel Project, and then they're like, yeah, maybe that hasn't really been working, so they wanted to change. And I was like, all right, well, maybe we could try to do some sort of another video thing, but I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. Have you guys done anything different in terms of to adjust during this time?
We have our boot camp in a couple of weekends, and so we haven't really planned that. And I'm trying to wait for the youth to tell us, where the feel is. But at this point, I'm just like, I know my youth group is shrinking because we're asking for registration at this point, right? Like you can't just walk through the door. I at this point, I don't know who's our youth until they register. And so I know our group is small. So I'm just kind of at a point now where I'm just like, screw it, right? Like, hey, if you want it, let's go. And we're just hitting the ground running starting September. And, we're going to go as hard as possible. So I kind of want that feeling, but I don't know. I might be too harsh right now. So
maybe they'll sign up at the deadline like everything else.
maybe. But then I need some leaders. So
that's true.
Right. Have y'all changed anything? Are y'all planning on changing how y'all think through even this year? Because I think that's the final question, right? Like we plan normally, but obviously this year is way different. So are y'all thinking about changing, or are y'all keeping the same?
Yeah, one of the major changes for us is splitting up the middle school and high school groups again. Like we kept them together really because for the past 2 years, because we really felt like our high school students were not interested in our middle school students, and keeping them separate was not helpful. And it ended up kind of being like what Kai was describing. Same thing happened at our church as same as W, which was our high school leaders would show up and then none of the other high school students would come. And something that was different, like when we switched campsites from Buckner to Carolina Creek, was we have middle school and high school camp running at the same time now. And some of our high school students kind of bucked at the idea at first, but then they realized, like, if I don't want to see my little brother who's in middle school camp, I really don't have to, right? Other than the worship times, they don't eat at the same time.
I thought you were going to say if they don't want to, they can just leave.
Yeah, I mean, they can do that too. But that shift for us, because we really want to reach our high school students, and so we're gonna split back up into Friday, Saturday nights, and we'll see how that goes. I'm not really sure if that's gonna happen. And then the other major changes, we had a what we call the middle school family worship, which was happening at the same time as our English adult worship. So we had taken out all of the middle school students and then tried to get their parents to sit in a service with them. And then so we would have the service in the youth center, and then we'd have English service in the gym. And then one of the major changes when we went off online, online, is that we took away this youth service that we had. And so what we realized is a lot of our middle schoolers are really struggling paying attention to like a 30-minute, 40-minute online sermon. And so what we do now for Friday nights is we give them a pre-study. So the teaching that we do, that Carolyn and I do on a Friday night, is we preview the sermon. So last week was a sermon on the book of Jonah. And so I taught a little bit on the book of Jonah to kind of give them a heads up of, here are some things to expect, here are some things to look forward to. And so far that's been pretty good. And I think that we're going to try to keep going with that, at least for the semester, for our middle school students.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, for us, you know, I don't want to say too much in detail because we have some major changes, not just with our youth ministry, but with our church that we're getting ready to roll out. But I'm gonna let my senior pastor be the one to be the first to announce it to our church. Only my leaders know, so I don't want to really announce it here. But you know, I think our senior pastor, he challenged us a few weeks ago, you know, with this idea of like, you know, we've been asking the question a lot of like, when are we going to go back in person, you know, and what's ministry going to be like, blah, blah, blah. And he challenged us, you know, like we're going to be stuck in this for a little bit longer. And so let's really try to reimagine, how do we do ministry online well? And he listed a bunch of like 5 objectives. And one of the objectives was this idea of like reclaiming the home and the parents as the primary disciple makers. And I think like for all of us who have any type of seminary youth ministry training, like we know that. We know that parents, like that is key to discipleship. It's not us, it's not the leaders, but it's the parents. But how many of us actually do a great job of that? Not me, right? Definitely not me. I don't do a great job. And so how I am thinking going into this year, a lot of it is kind of fixed on that. Like, how can we set our parents up in a way that will help them to accomplish this goal of discipleship, even if it's not accomplished, but it's like, how do we at least encourage them or equip them and resource them, even more so than I've ever before, because this is the time this is the year that we really need to do this, or else we might end up, when we come back together, we might end up losing a lot more kids than we think. Yeah. And so, that's the big thing that's on my heart, and is kind of how I am realigning my ministry to be more geared towards equipping our parents and just kind of using this idea of parents helping parents. And so maybe in a later podcast, I can share about some things that we're trying and we can share as well for parent ministry. Huge. But yeah, I think that's the big thing that I'm trying to focus on going into this year.
Yeah, cool. All right. I think that's about it. Do you have any last words for, just the listeners and other youth pastors for this moment?
Yeah,
I think the four of us. Yeah.
If you're struggling, figure out the youth ministry or planning for the year, like just know that, even for us, the 4 of us who've been doing this for a while, like it's tough. So, hang in there and like, don't lose hope,
And I think to add on to that, right? I think we can always play the game of comparing, especially on Instagram and Facebook and stuff, and just watching like, oh my gosh, that youth group is blowing up, right? Like everything they seem like is working, and I don't know why my thing is failure and stuff like that. It's just, I think we have to be faithful in this time, right? And I think the key is, hey, we're in this. Like we can't blame anyone. It's on us to think through it. It's on us to be responsible. But then like Kai, I think it's on us to kind of, we're finally actually given a freedom to kind of really reimagine what youth ministry looks like, right? And it's not just during quarantine, it's really for the fabric of how to move forward. And if we can set up some really good practices now as we start this new year, then hopefully those things will last regardless of whether we go back physically or not. And so I think that's the key in this whole thing, is just, hey, own your ministry, take into consideration the context in which God has put our students here. Every kid's different. Every generation's different. Your leaders will be probably different this year. And so there's a lot of things where we almost have to kind of restart our understanding and to go, hey, we need to know our youth. We need to know these parents. We need to know our leaders. What can we do as pastors to equip them? But also just realize, hey, you know, we're trying the best we can. That's the best we can ask. All right. That's the best we can do. So blessings to all of you guys. Hopefully encourage each other as we move forward, because this is going to be a different year. But I think we already realized that. So, all right. Well, we'll see you guys in a couple weeks or so.
Cool.
Later, everybody.